Hello, my name's Ryan and I play the trumpet with the Birmingham Contemporary Music Group. And today BCMG have asked me to make a video about how to write for the trumpet, which I'm very excited to do because I think it's an excellent instrument to write for. The trumpet is like all other brass instruments in the sense that we have to produce the sound ourselves. Sound is made of vibration, so vocal cords vibrate, drum heads vibrate, strings vibrate. And on a woodwind instrument, you make your sound vibrate with a wooden reed. But in brass playing, we become the reed. So I'll show you how to make a sound on a brass instrument, which is, I'm going to say the letter P. Your lips come together, P. And then I keep my lips together a little bit longer while I do it, P. And then, if I keep that together and blow, that's how I create a sound on any brass instrument. If I want to go higher, I squeeze my lips and blow harder. Lips coming together. And if I'm playing a bigger instrument, I relax my lips. But that buzz is the basis of all brass playing. And so that's something really nice to have in your mind about when you have to produce a sound. It's got to come from us. So if I put my buzz in the mouthpiece, so in this case, this is a non-transposing trumpet. That note becomes amplified by the instrument. The vibration from my mouth goes through the tubing, it becomes warm and resonant, and it has direction. Brass instruments are directional. So I have a microphone there that you can't see because the trumpet doesn't sound good through an iPhone. And if I play, all the same volume to me, but I imagine on the microphone it sounded different. And so you could play with some ideas of the trumpet pointing in certain directions, which Berio did in his sequenza for trumpet. That's a really good piece to check out. The trumpet is a brass instrument, so its tone color is an exciting, sort of rich, warm, and sometimes zingy and vibrant sound. It's very hard to describe sound, but that's how I see the trumpet. It can also be warm and lyrical. So it has a lot of colour options for you as a composer. The other thing a trumpet can do is have a humongous dynamic range. So you can play really quietly. Again, it's hard to hear on a video, but I'll do my best. You can play very quietly. You can play really very loud, which won't come very well across here. The range of the trumpet is a good solid 2 to 2.5 octaves, which some people find quite limiting. Now, this also depends on what age and ability level you're writing for. A junior player will never be able to reach the high notes with the same consistency or sound color. But on my C trumpet here, the nice working range of the instrument is 2 octaves from C to C. And if the player is more advanced, you can go down to the low F sharp. That's the lowest note. I'm using all my tubing. And if they're very, very good, you might be able to go a couple of notes higher. That's about as high as I would ever have to go. That's a concert F. There are also other trumpets. There are piccolo trumpets and E-flat trumpets. And you're probably thinking, if you know anything about the trumpet, that I thought the trumpet was in B-flat. And you would be correct. In general, we play in this country, in the UK, on B-flat trumpets. But it is widely considered in most of America, Europe, and in the contemporary music scene that orchestral and classical trumpet players play on the C trumpet. And in BCMG, that's a really good place that I get to go to work and use my C trumpet. So no transposition worries. If, however, you're writing for a brass band or a big band or a wind band, you need to write your parts in B flat. That's just a little transposition information for you. Now, what is the trumpet good at? Okay, well, the trumpet makes a loud, high, exciting, strident sound. We all know that tune, of course. It's loud, it's fanfare-like, and so the trumpet can add some real zing and pep and energy into the highs and the louds of your piece. We all know that fanfare as well. Something the trumpet does really well is its articulation. Now, how do we articulate notes, start notes on the trumpet? We use our tongue. So when I'm playing ta 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 ta, that's exactly what my tongue's doing. So instead of the sound you get from changing bows or hammers hitting on a piano, for example, you get a really clear and vibrant sound. So repeated notes are something that sound really good. So you might want to write some staccato, dynamic or accented music would be a good idea. The trumpet is a wind instrument in the sense that we have to blow it. So when you're writing your music, you need to consider that although long notes and long phrases sound incredible, we have to breathe. So on a trumpet, that might be every sort of 20 seconds, I suppose. But I could play, if I had just one very quiet long note, I could make it probably to 45 or 50 seconds. So you've got to decide, and a good way to decide that is, if, as the composer, to sing the music you're playing. Also, playing the trumpet or any brass instrument is a physical endeavor. I'm using lots of air and I'm using lots of very small muscles. And these very small muscles, when I play, get very tired. And when they get very tired, I need to rest. So if I see a piece of music that I play from start to finish, 3 or 4 minutes, my face is aching. Now, that might sound like I am complaining too much about it, of course. But if you want to write something for your brass instrumentalist that's really gonna be attention grabbing, you should probably give them a rest first. So if you're writing loud, high, or lengthy long music, think about pacing for your brass instrument. After all, every instrument is just another color in your paintbrush as a writer, really, to use an analogy for artistry. The trumpet is a great colour, but we don't want to put it on everything, and we certainly don't want those loudest, highest notes the whole way through a piece. That's just far too tiring. In fact, in professional orchestras, often the principal players who are playing the highest notes and all the solos will have a bumper, they're called a bumper, next to them who plays some kind of more simpler passages or longer notes to give the first player the rest in the muscles. So think of what we do as a little bit athletic, although I'm sure you're only writing pieces that are a few minutes long, so it's probably not going to be too much of a problem. Brass is also capable of creating a lovely vibrato. It's a really interesting way that you can create colour and sound in your writing. And also, there are some contextual ideas. There is a more jazzy type vibrato if you're trying to play bluesy type music. There is a cornet type vibrato if you want a brass band sound. There is a more classical, warm and slightly more mellow vibrato if you were playing a concerto. And so vibrato is something you can play with, an oscillation of sound. You can go from fast or wide too slow and narrow. Here's slow and narrow. Barely hear it. I'm exaggerating to create fast and wide. You can also use your tongue in other ways on the trumpet. You can flutter a sound. What do I mean by flutter? Well, I'm sure you at home can flutter or roll your R's, r or r, depending on which part of the tongue you want to use. And if I do that in the trumpet, you can create that growling, rasping sound. And that's really common in contemporary music, that flutter tongue sound. It's very fun to play as well. Now, not only is the trumpet able to play high and low, loud and quiet, long and very short staccatos, but there are other colours we can put into our palette with the use of extensions to the instrument. And we call these things that go in our bell mutes. This is a metal copper straight mute. And as you could probably guess by the material it's made out of and how it enters into the instrument, that it creates a very metallic, biting sound. That's an excerpt from Bartók's Concerto for Orchestra, where he puts two trumpets together with these lovely mutes. These mutes can really cut and really slice through an orchestra or any ensemble you're playing, or they can make the trumpet a little bit quieter with a sort of brighter colour. So that's the first mute you can write for. It's called the straight mute because it goes straight in the end. Simple. The next mute is called the cup mute. This is my cup mute, and as you can see, it kind of has a cup around the edge. And as you can probably imagine, that then cups the sound to give a warmer, quieter quality. It's a little bit maybe more mellow, more covered, more quiet, and they're often used in jazz contexts and lots of French music. That's an excerpt from the very French-sounding Tomassi trumpet concerto, where he uses sword bowl, or which is the French for cup mute. The third and final mute I've got with me today is called the Harmon mute, or sometimes called the wah-wah mute, or the extended tube mute. I have a mute and a tube that goes in it. Now, actually, there's also another name for it, which is the bubble mute. So lots of names. I tend to go with Harmon mute. Now, this mute is capable of multiple colours and sounds. I have to press really hard to get it in the bell so it doesn't fall out. So I'm going to play it closed for you. Sorry, with stem in for you. So this is quite a fun, nimble mute. If I extend the tube, I won't take it out just yet, I get this sound. Which gives a kind of more biting metal mute. So you would write Harmon mute, tube extended, and then this is the sound that everyone loves. If I take the stem out, we get what I like to call the Miles Davis sound. Miles Davis was a very famous jazz trumpet player who used to play with this smoky sound, and this is what it sounds like. It has that kind of smoky jazz club sound and feel, but it can also be like a little sort of bee or wasp sound kind of buzzing around. So you can play really kind of interesting, nimble music that it's also incredibly quiet to mute this. And that gives this really kind of cool, fleeting sound, whatever that is. And the final thing, you heard me right when I said wah wah mute, I can actually close this tube. And this is a very common contemporary music effect, which is, I can do closed, which you notate with a cross, and I can do open, which you notate above the note with a circle. Now, this has comedy uses, of course, which is a very, very silly thing to do. And it also is in the Muppets. That's a very fun tune to play. But in contemporary music contexts, it tends to be that kind of opening and closing which makes a sound feel very unstable, very comfortable. And if I combine it with that flutter tongue from earlier, you can get these really cool sounds where not only do you have a beautiful note from the trumpet, but you can change the sound and the colour. So they're the three mutes. The other thing is, of course, the trumpet can be closed with the hand. We call this hand over bell, or there is like a toilet plunger, we just call it a plunger, where you get like a rubber dome over the end. As you can hear, the hand affects the pitch slightly, so it tends to be used in those more bluesy examples. Thank you for listening to this video about writing for the trumpet. I hope you have a really good time exploring all the different sounds and colours it has to offer. Thanks for your time.